In a forest where the mist clings to the trees like a soft blanket, lived a young man named Kaelen. Kaelen was a woodcarver, known not for his riches, but for the peace that lived in his heart. He was never truly alone, for he had Luna, a small, mysterious owl with eyes like polished gold. Luna wasn't just a pet, she was his companion, his silent advisor, and his oldest friend. Every morning, as the sun began to peek through the canopy, the two would walk through the whispering woods. Every day, Luna would find a single luminous pine cone, a rare gift from the ancient forest. Kaelen would pick it up with great care, always whispering a word of thanks to the trees. "One is enough," he would say to Luna. "May we always have exactly what we need." He would spend his morning carving the pine cone into a single, beautiful charm of a bird or a leaf. At the village market, he would trade his one carving for just enough food for himself and Luna. His life was simple, his home was small, but his sleep was always deep and peaceful. The villagers often wondered how a man with so little could seem so incredibly rich. But one morning, something changed. Luna returned not with one pine cone, but with two. Kaelen blinked in surprise. "Two," he whispered. "The forest is being very generous today." That day, he carved two charms. He sold one for food and kept the second one in his pocket. The next day, Luna brought two again. And the day after that, the pattern continued. Soon, the villagers noticed. They saw that Kaelen had doubled his work. A wealthy merchant approached him. "If that owl can find two, she can find 20, the man said. "Build a bigger shop. Hire workers. You could be the wealthiest man in the valley." But Kaelen only smiled. "One for my needs, and one to share." "That is plenty," he replied. He began giving the extra carvings away. The first went to a lonely child who had no toys. The child's eyes sparkled, and for the first time in weeks, a smile touched their face. He left another on the doorstep of an elderly woman who lived alone at the edge of town. She found it in the morning, a small token of light to brighten her quiet home. People began to call him the giver of light, though he still lived in his same small hut. Then, a harsh and bitter winter arrived. The heaviest the village had seen in a lifetime. The roads were blocked. The crops failed. Many families found themselves with nothing. But Kaelen had been saving the extra pine cones Luna brought, carving them into charms of warmth. He walked through the freezing wind, visiting every house that was cold and dark. He didn't ask for money. He only asked that they pass the kindness on when spring returned. The village didn't just survive the winter, they grew closer than they had ever been. One evening, a friend asked Kaelen, "Don't you regret not selling those pine cones for gold?" Kaelen looked at his worn tools and his healthy, happy friend Luna. "Gold can buy a bed, but it cannot buy sleep," he said softly. "It can buy a house, but it cannot buy a home. I have everything I could ever want." Luna hooted in agreement, her golden eyes glowing with a warmth that no fire could match. As spring returned, the village bloomed, but the lesson of the winter remained. Kindness had become the new currency of the valley, and greed had begun to fade. Kaelen continued his work, teaching the young ones that the best things in life aren't things. They learned that happiness isn't a destination you reach by collecting more. It is a state of being that you find by appreciating what is already in your hands. "One is enough" became the motto of the village, a secret to a life well lived. The merchant, with all his gold, found himself visiting Kaelen just to hear him speak. He realized that his mansion was silent, while Kaelen's small hut was full of song. Slowly, even the merchant began to change, learning to work with his hands instead of just his purse. He discovered the joy of giving, a feeling no profit margin could ever provide. Luna continued to fly through the silver night, the guardian of the woodcarver's peace. Kaelen realized that he was just a small part of a grand, beautiful story. Every shave of wood, every stroke of the knife, was an act of meditation and love. The ripples of one man's contentment had turned into a sea of community strength. They say that if you walk deep enough into the woods, you can still hear the sound of his knife. A reminder that the earth provides enough for our need, but not for our greed. We often spend our lives chasing the more, forgetting that the now is all we truly have. In a world that tells you to constantly climb, sometimes the bravest thing is to stay still. To look at your life and say, "This is enough. I am enough." True wealth is not measured by what you have in your bank, but by who you have in your heart. And like Kaelen and Luna, may we all find our golden owl to guide us home. Let us remember to share our extra pine cones, for when we lift others, we lift ourselves. Be kind. Be simple. Be happy. Thank you for watching. May your heart be full today.